Hey YouTube, this is one only Catcher Master, and I'm back again with another live broadcast video on my channel. And in today's video, I want to get back into giving my opinion on historic events and things like that. So in this video, I want to speak on something that I came across a while back, but it just popped up in my mind as I was watching different stuff on YouTube, and I decided to give my opinion on it. And it involves the story of George Stinney Jr. Oh, excuse me. So for those who watch my channel and may watch the video and never heard of the name, don't know who George Stinney Jr. is, I will give you some information with the help of Wikipedia, where I always go to. Hold on. So George Stinney Jr., who was born October 21st, 1929, and died June 16th, 1944, was an African American boy who, at the age of 14, he was convicted in a proceeding and later vacated as an unfair trial and executed for the murders of two young girls in March of 1944. Betty June Binnicker, age 11, and Mary Emma Thames, age 7, in his hometown of Alcaloo, South Carolina. He was convicted, sentenced to death, and executed by electric chair in June 1944, thus becoming the youngest American with an exact birth date confirmed to be sentenced to death and executed in the 20th century. A re-examination of Stinney's case began in 2004, and several individuals in the Northeastern University School of Law sought a judicial review. Stinney murder conviction was vacated in 2014, 70 years after he was executed, with a South Carolina court ruling that he had not received a fair trial and was wrongfully executed. So that's pretty much going on to his story of what had happened to him, how old he was and stuff like that. That's a short version of what had happened. The reason why I'm doing this video is because I've been watching a YouTuber by the name of Lamont at Large for some years now. And in a lot of his videos, he go to graves and tell the stories of different people who have passed on. Um, and although I watch his channel a lot and I'm a fan of his, I don't always agree with a lot of the things he say in the video and how he put things in his videos. But not saying that he's a bad YouTuber, because like I said, I like a lot of his videos, I watch some of the stories he tell. I just don't always agree, and this is one story that I felt like I didn't agree with, but I had to watch it a couple of times to try to fully understand if maybe I was not getting the point of the video or whatever the case may be. But to be honest, I just feel like I don't agree, especially with the title being George Stinney was not innocent. So I'm gonna get off the Wikipedia page and I'm gonna try to go on YouTube and look at the comments. Because I know I was watching it earlier. So, yes, a year ago, when Mine at Large did a video saying George Stinney Jr. was not innocent, with three exclamation points. There's several comments. And 3 hours ago, I put, "Why would you believe racist cops accusing a child of killing two little girls? I mean, look at how they did Emmett Till." So he said, "What part of the video did I say I believed them?" And I said, "This is what I said. I watched the video several times and listened to what you were saying. I want to know, how could a 14-year-old kill two little girls? He was with another sibling when the two girls asked if he had seen the flowers they were looking for. I am sure if he killed them, the other sibling for sure would have told the parents that George did something wrong and was in big trouble. I also feel like whoever claimed that George confessed and knew he was a kid and probably wrote down what they wanted George to say. He repeated it because he probably was told that if he did it, he would go home and would get out of trouble. I feel they know he didn't do it, and they lied to him knowing that, knowing if he did or didn't admit to the murders, he wasn't going nowhere. They pretty much tricked him. All that little boy wanted to do was be with his parents and siblings. Hold on, my eyes getting blurry. All that little boy wanted to do was be with his parents and siblings again, and they knew that. Well, that was what he wanted. Tricked him into admitting he did something that he didn't, and then killed him. I took it as if you were saying that he did it because it was claimed that he admitted to the crime. If he did it, where was the sibling that he was with when the murder took place? And that's one question I wanted to ask. Because it said that he was with his, they say he was with his sister. Some say his brother, some say his sister. But all I know is he was with his sibling during, so his video says a lot. But anyway, it's a lot to read, and I'm not about to read everything because it is a lot to read when it comes to Wikipedia. And this is pretty much for where's my glasses at? I need to find my glasses because my eyes getting blurry. I don't know where them damn things are. Hold on, here they go. My eyes getting a little blurry here. Y'all, please bear with me with these glasses. What had happened was they broke, so I had to tape them to another pair of glasses, and up until I get some money to go to Rite Aid and get some new frames. Anyway, I know I look crazy right now. But anyway, In 1944, George Stinney lived in Alcaloo, South Carolina with his father, George Stinney Sr., who was born in 1902 and died in 1965, and his mother, Amy, who was born in 1907 and died in 1989. His brother Charles was 12, and sisters Catherine 10 and Amy 7. Stinney's father worked at the town's sawmill, and the family resided in company housing. Auckland was a small working class mill town where white and black neighborhoods were separated by railroad tracks. The town was typical of small southern towns of the time, given segregated schools and churches for white and black residents, there was limited interaction between them. On March 23rd, 1944, the bodies of Betty June Binnicker, who was born December 9th, 1932, and Mary Emma Thames, born March 14th, 1937, were found in a ditch on the African American side of Alcaloo after the girls failed to return home the night before. Stinney's father assisted in the search. The girls had been beaten with a weapon, variously reported as a piece of blunt metal or a railroad spike. Binnicker and Thames both suffered severe blunt force trauma resulting in penetration of both girls' skulls. According to a report by a medical examiner, these rounds had been inflicted by a blunt instrument with a round head about the size of a hammer. The medical examiner reported no evidence of sexual assault to the younger girl, though the genitalia of the older girl was slightly bruised. The girls were last seen riding their bicycles looking for flowers. As they passed the Stinney's property, they had asked Stinney and his sister Amy if they knew where to find maypops, a local name for passion flowers. According to Amy, she was with Stinney at the time the police later established the murders occurred. According to an article reported by the Wire Services on March 24, 1944, a sheriff announced the arrest of George Jennings. I hope that's how you are. Juniors, I think it's Juniors, and stated that the boy had confessed and led officers to a hidden piece of iron. Now, this is where the story gets wild. George and his older brother John were arrested on suspicion of murdering the girls. John was released by police, but George was held in custody. He was not allowed to see his parents after his trial and conviction. According to a handwritten statement, his arresting officer was H.S. Newman, a Clarendon County deputy, who stated, "I arrested the boy by the name of George Stinney. He then made a confession and told me where to find a piece of iron about 15 inches where. He said he put it in a ditch about 6 feet from the bicycle." In 1995, Stinney's seventh grade teacher, W.L. Hamilton, a black man, spoke in an interview with the Sumter item about George. Hamilton stated, "I remember the day he killed those children. He got into a fight with a girl at school who was his neighbor. In old days, you didn't have to worry about children carrying guns and knives to school, but George carried a little knife and he scratched this child with his knife. I took him outside and we went for a little walk and I talked to him. We went back into school. In a submissive way, he begged for the child's pardon. What? Stinney's sister, Amy Ruffner, denied those allegations and contacted Hamilton after it was published. Amy stated, I asked him why he would say something like that. She said he told me someone paid him to say it. I didn't know who paid him, but his exact words were, because they paid me. Hamilton died shortly after his interview was published. Following Stinney's arrest, his father was fired from his job at a local sawmill, and the Stinney family had to immediately vacate their company house, and the family feared for their safety. Stinney's parents did not see him again before the trial. He had no support during his 81-day confinement and trial. He was detained at a jail in Columbia's 50 miles from Alcala due to the risk of lynching. Stinney was questioned alone without his parents or an attorney. Although the Sixth Amendment guarantees legal counsel, this was not routinely observed until the United States Supreme Court 1963 ruling in Gideon and Wainwright, I hope I said that right, that explicitly require representation through the courts of criminal proceedings. The entire proceeding against Stinney, including jury selection, took place on April 24, 1944. Stinney's court appointed counsel was Charles Plowden, a tax commissioner campaigning for election to local office. Plowden did not challenge the three police officers who testified that Stinney confessed to two murders. He also did not challenge the prosecution's presentation of the differing versions of Stinney's verbal confession. In one version, Stinney was attacked by the girls after he tried to help one girl who had fallen in a ditch, and he killed them in self-defense. In the other version, he had followed the girls, first attacking Mary Emma and then Betty June. There was no written record of Stinney's confession apart from Deputy Newman's statement. Other than the testimony of the three police officers at trial, prosecutors called three witnesses: Reverend Francis Batson, who discovered the bodies of the two girls, and the two doctors who performed the post-mortem examinations. Sorry about that. The court allowed discussion of the possibility of rape due to bruising on Banneker's genitalia. Stinney counsel did not call any witnesses, did not cross-examine witnesses, and offer little to no defense. The trial presentation lasted 2.5 hours. More than 1,000 white Americans crowded the courtroom, but no black Americans were allowed. As was typical at the time, Stinney was tried before an all-white jury. In 1944, most African Americans in the South were disenfranchised and therefore not present on the rolls of those available to serve on juries. After deliberating for less than 10 minutes, the jury found Stinney guilty of murder. Judge Philip H. Stoll sentenced Stinney to death by electrocution. There was no transcript of the trial and no appeal was filed by Stinney's counsel. Who the fuck is this judge? Stinney's family churches and the NAACP appealed to Governor Olin D. Johnson for clemency given the age of the boy. Others urged the governor to let the execution proceed, which he did. He he visited George Stinney in the death house 2 days before his execution on June 14th. Johnson wrote a response to one appeal of clemency saying, "I have just talked with the officer who made the arrest in this case. It may be interesting for you to know that Stinney killed the small girl to rape the larger one. Then he killed the larger girl and raped her dead body. 20 minutes later, he returned and attempted to rape her again, but the body was too cold. All of this he admitted himself. Between the time of Stinney's arrest and his execution, his parents were allowed to see him once after the trial. When he was held in a Columbia penitentiary under the threat of lynching, they were not allowed to see him any other time. Stinney was executed on June 16, 1944 at 7:30 a.m. He was prepared for execution by electric chair, using the Bible as a booster seat because Stinney was too small for the chair. He was then restrained by his arms, legs, and body to the chair. An officer asked George if he had any last words to say before his execution took place, but he only shook his head. The executioner pulled the strap from the chair and placed it over George's mouth, causing him to break into tears. And he then placed the face mask over his face, which did not fit him as he continued sobbing. Then a lethal electricity was applied. The mask covering slipped off, revealing tears streaming down Stinney's face. The procession was later contested by Terry Evans, the niece of Mary Emma Dame's mother, Luna May. Terry's uncle, Clyde Barnes, witnessed the execution. Barnes told Evans' father that what he saw during the execution, which was then relayed to her years later. Her father said he said it was just a rumor that the hood had slipped and they did not put a stack of books under him. He was buried in an unmarked grave in Crowley. That's a whole bunch of other stuff I just really don't feel like reading because I already was messing up on words. So that's pretty much some of the story I've read off of Wikipedia. So they say that this 14-year-old boy who was only I'm trying to see if they so on Wikipedia, I'm not seeing where it's saying how tall he was or what his weight was. But I believe they said he was 5'1" and about 90 pounds at the age of 14. And there's many different stories about how they say that he killed these two girls. And like I said, number one, one question I gotta say is he was with his sister. They say he was with his sister when him and his sister was walking on their side of the railroad tracks when the two young girls seen them and asked if they knew where the Maypops were at. Both siblings said no, and the girls went on about their day only to be killed sometime later. So if George Stinney, who was 14 years old at the time, I believe he was 5'1" and about 90 pounds at the time. If he, let's just say, if he did do it, where was the other sibling during this time he had supposedly killed these two girls? Number one. Number two, why was him and his brother arrested and the brother freed later on if him and his sister were the ones that seen the two girls before they died? Me personally, I feel like that, like I said, I feel like when they got that boy, when they got George Stinney in the detective room or wherever they had him, asking them questions and stuff like that, I feel like everyone else involved were racist. They knew he was a young kid, and they probably promised him a lot of things, trying to get him to break in order to confess to confess, saying that he did something that they knew for sure he did not do. I feel like they probably could tell him that they're going to let him go home. They're going to let him see his parents. They could have told him anything. And it got to a point where he was so scared that he eventually believed them. And they probably wrote some stuff down and got him to repeat it. Or maybe they didn't get him to repeat it because he probably ain't say any damn thing. They probably they probably thought of some story to cover their asses, knowing that it was going to be an all white jury and knowing that they was going to get away scot free with killing this boy for a crime that he did not commit, killing two girls, one 11, one 7, and he's only 14 years old and was supposedly with his sister during the crime. And I do apologize if I'm mispronouncing words and stuff or reading a little too slow. I am legally blind in one eye, and reading this without glasses, the screen does get very blurry, and I had to put the glasses on to be able to see these words. In 2004, George Frierson, I hope I'm saying his name right, a local historian who grew up in Alcalo, started researching the case after reading the newspaper article about it. His work gained the attention of South Carolina lawyers Steve McKenzie and Matt Burgess. In addition, Ray Brown, attorney James Moore, and others contributed countless hours of research and review of historical documents and found witnesses and evidence to assist the exonerating Sten. Excuse me, in evidence to assist in exonerating Stinney. Among those who aided the case were the Civil Rights and Restorative Justice Pro- Project um, at the Northeastern University School of Law, which filed an amicus. Amicus. I hope I said that right. Please forgive me for pronouncing these words wrong. Brief with the court in 2014. Frierson and the pro bono lawyers first sought relief through the Pardon and Parole Board of South Carolina. McKenzie and Burgess, among with attorney Ray Chandler, represents things family, filed a motion for a new trial on October 25th, 2013. If we can get the case reopened, we can go to the judge and say there wasn't any reason to convict this child. There was no evidence to present to the jury. There was no transcript. The case needs to be reopened. This is an injustice that needs to be righted. I'm pretty optimistic that if we can get the witnesses we need to come forward, we will be successful in court. We hopefully have a witness that's going to say that's non-family, non-related witness who is going to be able to tie all this in and say that they were basically an alibi witness. They were there with Mr. Stinney when this did not occur. And that was from Steve McKenzie. This is a lot to read. Farson stated in an interview there has been a person that has been named as being the culprit who is now deceased, and it was said by a family that there was a deathbed confession. Frierson said that the Romer culprit came from a well-known, prominent white family. A member or members of the family had served on the initial coroner's inquest jury, which had recommended that Stanley be prosecuted. It is likely that Frierson was speaking of George Burke Jr., who has become an alternative suspect by modern day researchers. In his amicus brief, the CRRJ said there is compelling evidence that George Stinney was innocent of the crimes for which he was executed in 1944. The prosecutor relied almost exclusively on one piece of evidence to obtain a conviction in this capital case. The unrecorded, unsigned confession of a 14-year-old who was deprived of counsel and parental guidance, and whose defense lawyer shockingly failed to call exculpating witnesses to or preserve his right to appeal. Hold on, y'all, because it's a lot to damn read. New evidence in the court hearing in January 2014 included testimony by Stinney's siblings that he was with them at the time of the murders. In addition, an affidavit was introduced from the Reverend Francis Batson, who found the girls and pulled them from the water-filled ditch. In a statement, he recalled there was not much blood in or around the ditch, suggesting that they may have been killed elsewhere and moved. Wilford Johnny Hunter, who was in prison with Stinney, testified that the teenager told him he had been made to confess and always maintain his innocence. The solicitor for the state of Carolina, who argued for the state against exoneration, was Ernest A. Finney III. He was the son of Ernest A. Finney Jr., who was appointed as South Carolina's first African American state Supreme Court justice since Reconstruction. Rather than approving a new trial on December 16, 2014, Kirkwood Court, I hope I said that right, Judge Carmen Mullen vacated Stinney's conviction. She ruled that he had not received a fair trial and he was not effectively defended, and his Sixth Amendment rights had been violated. The ruling was a rare use of the legal remedy of Quran. Nobody, what the hell? Nobis? I don't know. Judge Mullen, Judge Mullen ruled that his confession was likely coerced and thus inadmissible. What the hell? She also found that the execution of a 14-year-old constituted preserve his right to appeal. Oh no, I read that wrong. She also found that the execution of a 14-year-old constituted cruel and unusual punishment, and that his attorney failed to call exculpating witnesses or to preserve his right to appeal. Okay. Mullen confirmed her judgment to the process of the prosecution, noting that Stinney may well have committed the crime with reference to the legal process. Mullen. No one can justify a 14-year-old charged, tried, convicted, and executed in some 80 days, concluding that in essence, not much was done for this child when his life lay in the balance. All right. Like I said, this is a lot to read, and I do apologize if I'm mispronouncing words, reading too slow, and stuff like that. I do this all the time, try to read stuff off of Wikipedia and other sites, and not be mispronouncing words or reading a little too slow, trying to catch on to every word. While Stinney's family and civil rights advocates celebrated the overturning of Stinney's conviction, relatives of both Betty Binnicker and Mary Thames expressed disappointment at the court's ruling. They said that although they acknowledged Stinney's execution at the age of 14 is controversial, they never doubted his guilt. Binnicker needs claimed she and her family have extensively researched the case and argues that people who just read the articles in the newspaper don't know the truth. She alleges that in the early 1900s, the police officer who had arrested Stinney had contacted her and said, "Don't you ever believe that boy didn't kill your aunt." These family members contended that the claims of the death be a confession from an individual confessing to the girl's murders have never been substantiated. What? Sub, the substantive. I think I said that right. Anyway, stu, ugh, I keep pronouncing these words wrong as hell. Anyway, commenting on the public opinion regarding Tinney's case, she said that the case has always been one-sided in that Stinney has been incorrectly portrayed as a poor, pitiful little black boy. Racist bitch. At the same time, another niece of Binnicker, while remaining convinced of Stinney's guilt, agreed that Stinney did not receive a fair trial and that he should have not have received the death penalty, adding that she felt bad for Stinney and his family and that she hopes they eventually find peace. A childhood acquaintance of Binnicker also said, "I'm sorry that they electrocuted him. I wish they had just sent him to prison." Since Stinney's exoneration, George Burke Jr., the son of wealthy white businessman George Burke Sr., has been the subject of speculation as a possible suspect of for the murders. Burke Jr. died in 1947, age 26. Mm. Stinney's mother had worked for the Burke family for a brief period. Stinney's sister recalled that her mother had once come home saying that Burke Sr. had made advances to her, and their father had told her mother to no longer go back. Mm. Stinney's sister claimed to have heard that the Burke boys had framed Stinney because their mother didn't want to give it up. Burke Sr. conducted an initial search for the girls and was the owner of the territory behind Green Hill Baptist territory, behind Green Hill Baptist Church where the girls' bodies were found. He was also the foreman of the grand jury that indicted Stinney and has been accused of helping steer the blame off of his son and onto Stinney. Two elderly women in Oklahoma recalled that Burke Jr. was known as a womanizer and for committing theft and getting away with it. Wow. According to Sonia Addie Williamson, a white Alcalo resident investigating the case who became close to Stinney's sisters, George Burke Jr.'s son, Wayne Burke had told her that his grandmother had told him that his father had picked the girls up in his lumber truck by his grandmother's house on the day of the girls' murders. In 2017, Wayne Burke denied saying this and said that he remained convinced of Stinney's guilt. Stinney's sister had previously recalled that after the two girls had asked about maypop flowers, the lumber truck drove down the road. Lawyers for the Stinney family had stated that there had been rumors of a death via confession to the murders by a member of the prominent white family. However, this has never been proven. Mm-mm-mm-mm. George Stinney case had been frequently referred to. Let me call my phone. Hello. Yeah, what's up? I ain't doing shit, just chilling.